Well, alright y'all, welcome back. Josh here with Josh's Lawn and Landscape. As you can see, I'm in the shop. But there's no mowing and no mower maintenance involved in this video. But there's other maintenance that goes along with it. So, you saw in the video yesterday, my daily driver, S10, that I was pulling the trailer with. Drove it to work this morning and noticed that the temperature was not climbing as I was going down the road, so it never would reach operating temperature. So which lets me know that the thermostat was sticking open, so it's much better than it sticking closed so the vehicle doesn't overheat, but I still need to get it replaced. So I picked up a thermostat from AutoZone, and I'll show you where it's at real quick, but then I'm also doing something else that I'll discuss here in just a second. So here it is. It is a, like I mentioned in the previous video, it's a 4.3 V6. It's a 2000 model pickup, and the thermostat is located right here in this housing. There's a bolt there and a bolt on the back side. Take those loose. You probably best to get this bracket and this bracket right here out of the way, so it's easier to get to the bolts, and then disconnect that and move it out of the way, and you can take your thermostat out of the housing and replace it with the new one, put everything back in place, and then just make sure to check your coolant level if you lose any, which you shouldn't lose much with it being on top of the engine. So I'll do that before too long. Won't take long, probably about a 20-30 minute job, just because you have to get everything out of the way and put it all back. But the other thing is, and you can see here, I have some brake fluid. Is I've recently noticed that the truck, when you stop or apply the brakes, it wants to pull to the left, or has started to notice a pull to the left, which either the left caliper could be sticking and not releasing back in enough so that it makes quicker contact, or the right caliper could just not be compressing down on the pads as much, causing there to be more brake application on the left, therefore it pulls. So I've gone and gotten 2 new calipers. So I've got one here, and excuse me, I'm going to take the old calipers off, and I've also got another caliper for the other side. So I just took the wheel off, removed the caliper bolts that go through the bracket here. You see the bracket there and there, and take those 2 bolts out. I typically use just a small pry bar, settle on top of the brake rotor, and just pop it up a little bit on either side. It pulls the caliper off. Set the brake pads aside. For the caliper bolts, it is a H 3/8 hex socket, and I've got a 3/8 drive flex head. You can use a straight handle, but I like the longer handle on my flex head here, so I use it. And just loosen them up, and just remember that these are, you have to kind of go as a reverse thread with the bolts coming in from the back, so you have to treat it as a reverse thread. So in order to go left on the bolt, you have to go right with the wrench. And then got my impact for removing the lugs and the wheel. And what I'll typically do when I've done brake caliper changeouts before is just take a pair of vice grips, and on the line here, not too heavy, but just enough pressure to kind of squeeze that line so that when you remove it, it doesn't pour a bunch of fluid out of it. And then that way it doesn't take quite as long to bleed the brakes when you have to do that after you put everything back together. And then you'll bleed the brakes down, make sure there's no air in the lines, and then top off the master cylinder over here. So you'll top off the reservoir to the proper level, and then you're good to go. So I've got one for both sides. As you can see, I got this one off of the rotor and everything out of the way. So I'm going to crimp off the line and then change it out, and I'll show you what it looks like when I get it back together. Alright, so I'm back changing out the thermostat here. Got a fail-safe thermostat, 195 degree. That's what that number there is. Part number 7228. Pick these up pretty much any parts store. This one came from AutoZone. But like I said, the thermostat housing is there. To make it a little easier, you need to remove this bracket. But in order to do so, you got to move this bracket and loosen the vent carb pipe tube here on top. Forgive me, my brain's not working to remember exactly what you call it. But anyway, this airflow tube here has a winged plastic nut bolt here that goes on the back side back here. You just twist it off, pop it up out of the way, because there is a screw right there. You can see it, get the light right there. You see the stud standing up right there. Then there's one there and one right back there. You can see it right, the light's on the center of it right there. These are all 10 millimeter. So you can take a 10 millimeter socket and then loosen them, and then just be able to move them out of the way. And the nut on each side of the thermostat housing is a 13 millimeter. So move the brackets out of the way. We'll move the airflow tube. Take off the nuts from the brackets. Move the brackets out of the way. Take the two nuts off of the thermostat housing. Remove it. Put the thermostat back in. And then tighten everything back up. So that's what we're going to do. Stick around. Real quick, I want to add this in there while you're taking this apart, just a little more, once I get a little deeper involved, that I was missing. There's actually a threaded stud with a nut made to it that goes in between here, and then it threads in right there holding this bracket on, and then this bracket goes on the outside, and there's a nut that holds this bracket in place. So there is another stud with a nut made to it here. There's also a 10 millimeter, and there's one more right there that you can see, another 10 millimeter to go along with the one back here right there. So there's one there, one there. There will actually be two there, and then the one back there for that. So get this one loosened up down here, get it out of the way, and get the thermostat in. So for a little more of your viewing pleasure, got it out. Make sure you have a drain pan, forgot to mention that earlier, underneath this area here under the bottom, because it's going to puke out a little bit of coolant, and you don't want that running all over your shop floor or in the yard killing your grass. So just remember that, drain pan underneath also. And these were not actually just the nut on the stud. These were also the studs that remove with the nut attached to them. But again, they are 13 millimeter. So, but on the thermostats, you can see this is the old one. This is the replacement. And if you take a look, see how that's open? See how far out it sticks? This one closed. And you can see there that this one was just stuck in that position and not letting anything, or not letting it close off to where the engine could heat up. So may play with it, see if I can free it up, but Might not just worry about it. It's only, I think, a $15 part from AutoZone for a failsafe. This one's 2 or 3 years old, something like that. But for 15 bucks, $5 a year, not that big a deal. So I'm going to take this one, set it back down in the slot back here, put the studs back in, tighten everything back up, and we'll be good to go. I just had to get my father-in-law to help me bleed the brakes, and this will be back on the road. So hope this information or rambling scatterbrain explanation of changing a thermostat and swapping out calipers on a 2000 S10 two-wheel drive with a 4.3 front calipers and thermostat replacement. So hope you enjoyed it. Hope it was helpful. No grass cutting, no lawnmowers, but it's still part of the setup, still part of lawn care in a roundabout way, because you got to have something to transport your equipment. So got to keep it running just like the mowers. So hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. If you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button at the bottom and leave me a comment. Let me know what you think and if y'all have ever done anything like this before. So appreciate it. Y'all be safe, be kind, be blessed. We'll catch you on the next one. Thanks, everybody.